Salt and high blood pressure. The purpose of this presentation is to educate you about salt and sodium and how it causes high blood pressure. This presentation will talk about what salt is, how salt is good and bad for our body, how salt can cause high blood pressure, and what foods are high in salt and sodium. Vocabulary. So for this presentation, we need to know 3 vocabularies, which are words that are in this presentation. The first word is salt and sodium, highlighted in yellow. Next word is nutrition label, and the other one is blood vessel. Let's begin with blood vessel. This one right here. Okay. Let me highlight it, circle in red, blood vessel. So blood vessels are right here in our body that carries blood throughout our body. So blood vessel is a tube-looking thing like this right here, and blood will go in and through it so that it can pass blood through our body. Next, we have nutrition label. Nutrition label is the black and white box on the back of our food packages. So right here, circle in red, and it will say nutrition facts, highlighted in yellow. And this gives us information about what is in our food. Next, we will have salt and sodium. Right here, circle in yellow. And this is what we use in our cooking to add flavors to our food. What is salt? All salt originates from the sea. As you can see on the bottom, we have a picture of people harvesting salt, and these are the salts that we will use for our cooking. Moving up, here we go, circle in red. So salt is a mineral that we add to our food to help us add flavors to our food to make it taste good. And there's another name that people usually call salt. It's sodium, right here. And sodium is part of salt. So in food labels to our right, nutrition facts or food label, that's what it's called. Highlighted in red, let's erase that, not in red. Highlighted in green is sodium, which is part of salt. And people usually switch sodium and salt all the time as name. How is salt both good and bad for our body? Salt help our muscle to work. Let me circle it in red. As you can see right here, our muscle is it's becoming bigger and smaller. So that's what salt help with. Salt also help keep water in our body. And we only need a small amount to make this happen. So how can salt be bad for our body? Like everything else, eating too much of something can be bad. And this goes for salt too. So if we eat too much salt, it can cause high blood pressure. Right, let me highlight the word high blood pressure in red right here, high blood pressure. High blood pressure is not good for us. It could lead us to other health problems that we may have later in life. So how much salt is enough? In the American Dietary Guideline, it tells us that we should eat 23 milligrams of salt or less. So I'm going to highlight in yellow. So 23 milligrams of salt right here. And 23 milligram is 1 teaspoon. So highlight in yellow, 1 teaspoon. And our picture to the right, it will show you how much 23 milligrams look like. Now, if we eat more than 23 milligrams, like all the time, and for a very long time, it could lead to health problems like high blood pressure. Salt and sodium can cause high blood pressure. So, why does salt and sodium cause high blood pressure? Now, salt is like a sponge right here, and we have a sponge down here, circle in the yellow. It attracts water and absorbs it. That's what the sponge is doing down here. Eating foods that are high in salt will draw in water, and it will increase the volume of blood or the amount of blood in your blood vessel. Now, our blood vessel is small. So it's like that right there. And then our blood is right here. But if we eat too much salt, it will start to attract more blood in and make our blood vessel big. So our blood vessel is getting bigger. Okay. So having too much blood creates high pressure in our blood vessel, and this causes high blood pressure. So highlight it in the yellow, high blood pressure. High blood pressure makes our heart work harder and then can cause us health problems in different parts of our body. Ways to reduce salt intake. So ways to reduce salt intake is by reading nutrition labels. Highlighted in the red, this is our nutrition label, which are the black and white box found on the back of our food package. Buying snacks that are low in sodium, preparing our own food, so cooking our own food, and adding herbs and spice to our cooking. So let me circle that in the yellow or red. So herbs and spice to our cooking so that we can add flavor, a lot of flavor, instead of adding a lot of salt to add flavor. And then we can buy fresh whole foods. One of the ways to lower salt intake is to read nutrition label. Here we have two nutrition labels. One nutrition label will have more salt than the other one. So the one with the least salt is going to be the one with the smaller number. Let me highlight it. So the one to our right has 140 milligrams, and the one to our left, highlighted in green, has 890 milligrams. So 890 is more than 140. So that means that this one right here to our right has less salt. So this chicken noodle soup has less salt than the one to our left that is highlighted in green. Foods high in salt. In this picture, we will have foods that are high in salt. All right, let's begin with bread rolls right here. Bread rolls, pizza, sandwiches like hot dogs and hamburgers, cold cuts and cured meats, soups, especially canned soups. You add a lot of salt in these. Snacks, snack foods like chips, crackers, pretzels, cheese are also high in salt, and food that you buy in restaurants are high in salt. Hidden salt in our diet or in our food. So there are a lot of foods that have salt in them that we don't really think about or don't know. So foods like, let me highlight it or circle, bread, cheese, I think this is butter, pickles, chips, canned foods, cheese, baking soda or baking powders, packaged food, bread, soup, and even cereals. These are foods that have salt in them or a lot of salt or sodium in them that we don't really think about. Which of these foods have a lot of salt in them? So in this PowerPoint slide, there are 6 pictures. So we have a bag of chips, daikon radish, canned soup, vegetables, hot dogs, and this is a durian fruit. For this slide, I just want to see if you guys can figure out which foods have a lot of salt in them and which food doesn't. So there are going to be 3 foods that have a lot of salt in them out of the 6 pictures. On the next slide, I will have it circled, so you can pause this video and figure out which foods have a lot of salt in them and then move to the next slide. And here is the circle food that has a lot of salt and sodium in them. You can see that these foods are not fresh, they have been prepared, and they are in packages. So that's the relationship between them. They're not fresh, they're packaged and prepared already. So on this slide, there are 3 questions. You can pause this video to answer the questions and then move on to the next slide to see if you got it right. So the first question asks you, are salt and sodium bad for us? And then the second question, what foods have a lot of salt and sodium in them? And the third question, what can we do to have less salt and sodium in our diet? You can pause this video and circle the one that you think are correct and then move to the next slide to see if you got the answer right. On this slide, we have the answer from the previous slide before. So the answers are highlighted in yellow here. So which salt is salt bad for us? The answer is C. It is good for us, but if we eat too much, it can cause health problems. And for number 2, the answer is B. What foods have a lot of salt in them? Hot dog and cheese have a lot of salt in them. Number 3, what can we do to eat less salt in our diet? The answer is A. Read nutrition label and cook at home. Now that's all for this presentation. Thank you for watching the video, and I hope that it was easy to understand. Remember that there will be a follow-up call to talk about this video. Thank you and have a wonderful day.